What keeps me up at night is how do we develop out? How do we sell? How do we create something that people want to buy so that we don't have thousands of acres that we're holding in our portfolio? And that's become more apparent.
From cornfields to high-rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what, and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines. Here's your host, Neil Timmins.
I've got Tim Portzen on here on the show. Tim, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited you're here. Say, for the audience to say, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Tim Portzen. I run Diligent Development, originally from Dubuque area. Currently live in Adel. Yeah, I think that covered the bases.
Growing up in Dubuque, what was your world like there?
Yeah, it was interesting. Dubuque is a lot different today than it was when I was growing up there.
Changed over the years.
Yeah. Downtown was not near as vibrant. So growing up in Dubuque, I love Dubuque, wanted to get out of Dubuque. And now I find myself like being like, oh, where should we go for a weekend getaway? And it's Dubuque. So it's funny how that all works out. But
yeah, things have changed a lot there. And that's a tribute to the city and all the developers that have gone into place there. Where'd you end up going to school?
I went to University of Northern Iowa, was a finance and real estate major there. Following UNI, I went up to the Twin Cities to work for a little while, and then ultimately made my way back to Iowa and settled in the Des Moines metro.
You landed at Diligent at some point. Tell us a little about Diligent, what you guys focus on.
Yeah, Diligent is I like to call a kind of boutique development company. So we're very focused in our backyard, very focused on building community. So we're primarily focused in Warren County, where the two partners of Diligent live. One grew up there. We are very focused on community building and placemaking, I'd say. So since I've joined Diligent in the last 3 years, a lot of my focus has been in larger scale developments that are mixed use, master plan, 100-acre plus. Historically, Diligent was born out of the recession a little bit and was really focused on small single-family subdivisions. So we've definitely evolved over the years, but it started off as a company picking up distressed assets. One of the partners in Diligent is Steve Brewer with People's Company. Okay. So he had a pulse on farm management, land. So he was approached by banks during the recession to take some of this transitional ground that was slated for single-family development and bring it back to being managed as a farm. And then through that process, as things clawed itself out of the recession, he was positioned as the receiver manager of this land, these assets that were taken back. He was in a great position to then make an offer and develop out of them. And that's how it started. And then they just continued to accumulate land, much a land broker does. And then got to the point where it was no longer onesie-twosie stuff. It was, we've got enough a ground assembled that we've basically got a town. We've got to build towns now, which is single family, but it's also commercial, and it's streets, and it's infrastructure, and it's parks, and it's a little bit of everything. So over the last few years, we've transitioned and still do a lot of single family development, but we're doing more multifamily. We're doing vertical kind of income producing development. So
it takes a tremendous vision to do one plot of land to go put up whatever 40 or 50 or 80 or 100 single family lots and slice and dice these things and send them out. That's one thing. But to go develop a whole town takes tremendous vision, because you're not just doing one thing, you're doing all the things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're attempting to do in coming with Middlebrook.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Middlebrook Agrihood. It's Iowa's first Agrihood. We've accumulated 800 acres. So we've got an 800-acre master plan community along Cumming Ave, G14, right off of I-35. The east side of I-35, we basically control Cumming. Annexed in probably 600 acres in the last few years there. Worked with the Design Workshop, who is behind Daybreak in Salt Lake City, big master plan community. They're involved in the Market District here locally in Des Moines. So they helped us out in creating this master plan vision of an Agrihood, which people ask, what's an Agrihood? And it's a little bit different for everybody, but essentially a community built around kind of agricultural amenities. In the 80s and 90s, developers were building golf courses so that they could sell lots around the golf course.
Right.
And some people were into golf and some people just wanted the space. Today, what we're doing is creating that space as an agricultural amenity. So we've got about a 2-acre garden, produce garden. We've got a full-time farmer, garden stand, free-range chickens for people to come out and enjoy. We teamed up with Wilson's Orchard. They've got 70 acres of fruit produce, mainly apple trees, but strawberries, raspberries, pumpkins, you name it. We've got about 50 acres of kind of meadow / pasture. That's like a conservation area, but also a place to graze livestock. And then we've got quite a bit of kind of urban pocket parks and greenways and trailways and stuff like that. And essentially of the 800 acres, about 30% of that is set aside for outdoor recreation, trails, agricultural ties. So that's the agricultural part of the Agrihood. But what I really focus on as a developer is I see it as a way to recreate these small town Iowa.
Yeah.
So I grew up spending time in Decorah and love Decorah and Grinnell, and even Dubuque's a big small town.
Right.
That's got that small kind of turn of the century county seat. You've got your main street or your town square. Yeah. My wife and I live in Adel now, which small town Iowa. It's growing a lot and it's getting consumed by the metro, but I walk to my eye doctor, my dentist, to go get coffee, to go grab ice cream. Yeah. Yep. So trying to recreate that outside of food and livestock and chickens, just this agricultural, like small rural town feel of knowing your neighbor, being able to walk to all these local places. So yeah.
Yeah, the benefit of that small town feel, the nostalgia, the charm, and certainly you'll have what's going in there ultimately, because retails all the things you would have in this corner square. But at the same time, the big city, use that slightly in quotes, right? The benefits of you're in Norwalk.
Yeah.
You don't have to be an hour or 2 hours away from Des Moines.
Hey, Iowa investors, this is Ava Baukamp, Chief of Staff at Legacy Impact Investors. Have you thought about adding real estate to your portfolio but don't have the time or desire to play landlord? At Legacy Impact Investors, we do the heavy lifting. Our team finds the deals, manages the properties, and handles all the day-to-day operations. Our select group of qualified investors co-invest with us, gaining ownership equity without opening a tenant email or responding to a maintenance call. They just share in the income, appreciation, and tax benefits. These opportunities aren't for everyone. They are for qualified, accredited investors only. If you want to learn more, please visit legacyimpactinvestors.com to apply.
Yeah, we're spending a lot of time in Cumming, so I've timed it pretty well. Our office is in West Des Moines, right on 60th and Mill Civic, and it's about an 8-minute drive for me to get to Middlebrook from my office on 60th and Mill Civic. So yeah, less than 10 minutes to Jordan Creek, Mill Civic area. It's easier to get downtown, faster to get downtown from Middlebrook than Norwalk, because you can jump on the interstate versus having to drive down Fleur.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Thanks for correcting me. I said Norwalk, and it's coming right off the exit there.
Yeah.
Just on the way to Norwalk.
Yeah. Norwalk schools.
That's largely where I was going.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Incredible. How long do you think it's going to take? I'm curious. You've been at this for a little while, and 800 acres is no small feat. A decade, 2 decades?
Yeah.
It's, as you said, it's a place-making development, and it takes a period of time to make it.
Yeah. I'd say definitely over a decade.
Sure.
2 decades would be great, but we might, have some hiccups along the way.
No, development that's the constant development is you're going to have hiccups. What I really mean is you're going to have things to solve for.
Yeah.
Just don't run a plan. What keeps you up at night?
Oh gosh, doesn't. But we've got a lot of land. Right. And you look back at what took down some of the greatest developers, and it's carrying land.
Correct.
I talk about how we're starting to evolve and transition and do some income producing properties, which is great. Land is not income producing. Land is cash suck until you can sell it or you can put something on it that is income producing. I think what keeps me up at night is how do we develop out? How do we sell? How do we create something that people want to buy so that we don't have thousands of acres that we're holding in our portfolio. And that's become more apparent as interest rates have gone up. Yep. Now, it doesn't keep me up at night because we bought almost all of this ground right. So as I mentioned, born out of kind of a people's company, sister company, much of this ground was bought a decade ago at closer to farm ground prices. And we just waited for things to come out to us. We waited for the metro to grow to us. And then we do some placemaking to try and expedite and build some momentum. But luckily, the ground that I'm working with wasn't bought at what you would consider market prices for development ground.
Yeah. And as you said, development ground and farm ground, income producing ground, I'll put that in farm ground. They're just not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different. You mentioned income producing properties. Are you guys going vertical on income producing properties?
Yeah, we're starting to. Yep. And we've got a couple retail buildings in our Norwalk Central project. We just broke ground on what we're calling our Middlebrook Main Street. So we've got 2 multi-story mixed-use buildings that have 26 apartment units, about 13,000 square feet of ground floor office retail, and then about 15,000 square feet of upper story office, which People's Company will occupy.
When do you anticipate that'll be completed?
Oh, I would say
sometime in 25.
August. August 25. Yeah.
As you look forward to 25, what are you most excited about?
Oh, probably the Main Street project.
Yeah.
Before joining Diligent, I worked at Hubble, and I spent my life building apartments and warehouse, and I never did land development, to be honest with you. Hubble was a large enough company that we had different divisions. We had property management division, we had development division, we had home building division, land development division. And so my focus was on investment property like apartments, senior housing, warehouse. Diligent's much different, smaller company. So I've learned land development, and I've learned a little bit about managing a golf course and a coffee shop and bar, and you just get pulled into 15 different directions. But yeah, so I'm excited to use the tools that I spent kind of 10 years building and get to do some apartment development and retail development and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see that come to fruition. I think Diligent hadn't really dipped their toes in that, and I think they're seeing the benefit of income producing to offset some of this carry type real estate like land. Yeah. So I'm excited to grow that and do that differently and introduce that.
I'm excited beyond belief for you in that role. I think, the idea of how did you guys come, where did Diligent grow out of? It grew out of that recession and just an opportunity presented itself. You're into a couple of where you've got this carry of the land and you've got to solve for that, right? I know Steve well enough to know that this is going to be something special, I suspect, over a period of years to go. Fast forward a handful of years, what did it ultimately grow into? How do how does Diligent grow up and become itself, if you will?
And in everything you do gets you more and more emotionally attached.
Yes.
I think at first, before I joined Diligent, I think some of the coming acquisition was, hey, this is a great deal. This is right on a major thoroughfare. Steve was driving to work down Cumming Ave G14 multiple times a day, every day. And it was this untouched area. So I think it started off as, hey, we just need to buy this because it's going to be worth something someday and we'll just sell it. And then it was like, okay, how do we position it so that people are excited and want to buy it? Okay, let's start looking into some planning. Okay, Agrihood. This is unique, different. Like it's something that will catch your attention and maybe make you think of coming when you wouldn't have anyways. Right. And then you get into planning and the next thing you're renovating the one-room schoolhouse into a bar. You own this wine bar, and then Groundbreaker, who's another sister company to People's and Diligent. They're starting to build houses and then you're moving your headquarters down there. And next thing you went from, hey, this is a great deal for us to flip to, hey, this is a deal that we're going to spend the next couple decades just really sitting in and making it home. So
a lot of real estate folks I talk to talk a lot about creating a legacy and leaving a legacy. And then ultimately leaving a legacy. When I think of this, the level, the scope of this entire project, and then ultimately how many people have to be involved. It's not one person. It's tons of people have to be involved to make this thing, to get this thing over the finish line and make it tremendous success. There's a lot of fingerprints on this. And ultimately, it's going to be fun to see that. And it does become a legacy project here in the city.
Yeah, we hope so.
Tim, are you ready for the final 3 questions?
If you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
Sure.
If you had one piece of advice for your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. Probably take more chances. Be a little bit more optimistic. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. And that's served me well. And I think I'm happy with where I'm at because I took calculated chances. I took chances, but I calculate them. But I think as I get a little bit further along in my career, more chances present themselves. And you look back at what didn't even seem like a chance or an opportunity when you were younger. And now looking back, you're like, gosh, that was. So yeah, I think take more chances. Can't think of a time where I took a chance and it didn't pay out, but I can think of multiple times where it was like, oh gosh, I knew that house was a good deal. I could have flipped it and done this. And so I think just, take the chance and learn a little bit. So
2 books that changed your life.
Oh gosh, I'm not proud. I should be more of a book reader. I would say, so currently, I don't know if I'd say life-changing, but right now with all this placemaking, having to create a PUD for Middlebrook and again, create a town in a town that doesn't have a lot of tools needed to create the town the way you want to. Daniel Paralek, Missing Middle, has been like a great resource. I'd say that's probably less of a book and more of a toolbox of like different types of housing that go back hundreds of years. And it's a great resource for me on not how to reinvent the wheel, but retool it and reimagine it to today's standards. So professionally, I've spent a lot of time fingering through the pages of that recently. Personally, oh gosh, life-changing. Bible comes to mind, but that's probably a common one. There's a book that I had to read in college as a capstone. I can't remember the author. Ishmael is early 90s book, and it goes into, it's like a philosophical book. Goes into sustainability and the takers and the givers. And it's this philosophical book that focuses on Ishmael, this gorilla. And this sounds weird, but you should really read it. It coming from Dubuque, going to a Catholic school, and then having to read this as a capstone, and it challenges everything you think about with like sustainability in the world. It makes you question religion. It makes you question this. And it was a great.
Sounds thought-provoking.
Thank you. Very much so. Very thought-provoking. And I think that's, I find myself thinking back to that book and it challenges you. It makes you question things, which I think is a really good thing to have, as something that's always making you question.
We should always have our beliefs challenged, is my opinion.
Absolutely.
Either you're going to, it's going to, at the end of the day, confirm your beliefs, right? Yep. You'll think a little deeper about that. Or once in a while, we get enough information, we do a 180 on what it is that we buy into. If you were cast away on an island for a year, you can only get 3 pieces of data about your business each and every month. What 3 things must you know?
Ooh, sales. We're still, being a land developer primarily, we're still very sales driven. Sales, because that's driving revenue. Cash flow, which isn't always correlated to sales.
Right.
Yeah, cash flow. And probably debt summary. So I'm going to package multiple together. Maturity dates, interest rates, whether it's amortizing or not, just knowing our debt situation. Real estate's a pretty debt heavy asset, and that is probably your number one risk. So
getting over leveraged.
Yeah. Yep.
I've asked lots of questions. Tim, what's one question I did not ask that I should have asked?
Oh boy. One question that you did not ask that you should have asked. What attracted me to real estate? I think
let's do it.
Yeah. So grew up in Dubuque. My uncle owned a contracting business, so I was around construction. I've always been, the architects I hire will call me a blue beam architect. I've always liked design, wanted to be an architect, but I'm just not quite creative enough and too much number focused. So I grew up around construction, loving design, went to UNI for real estate, have always been on that track. did some lending for a while, institutional lending for Aegon and life insurance company, and then a bank up in the Twin Cities, and realized that I didn't want to give people money to do what I wanted to do. Like, I always wished like I was on the other side of the table. So yeah, that brought me to Hubble. And so yeah, I don't know. I think people that I talk to, I think that's what makes me somewhat unique. I don't know if it's good or bad, but people that I talk to in real estate typically were in construction and then found themselves in real estate, or were in asset management or property management and found themselves, or the finance side or sales side. And I didn't really stumble upon it. I've always just known, and it's been laser focused, and it's been a journey, and maybe I should be a little bit more broadened. But yeah, I've always loved it, and I've always had, I guess I'm grateful. Yeah. To sum it up, I think that's what I'm very grateful for, getting into real estate development as early as I did, and having a pretty focused path there, and it working out. That being something that I love.
It's an enviable position to be that focused and be where you're at. Tim, for people who want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to connect with you, where can they go? What should they do?
Yeah, best place would be diligentdevelopment.com. My email's there, my cell phone's there. You can contact us there. You can find me on social media as well. But yeah, the diligentdevelopment.com. Emails Tim at diligentdevelopment.com.
Links below in the show notes, everybody. Tim, I sincerely appreciate being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? It does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, go to LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.